Thanks, Alan, for introducing this time. I want to kind of officially kick off this time of sharing. And, it's interesting, you prayed out of Acts 14. I actually had pulled up Acts 14, yeah, to read some, to kind of talk about, why do we do this? Why do we come back and share about what's happened on a mission trip? Because it's interesting, in Acts 13, the previous chapter to it, they prayed over them and sent them out, which happened 2 weeks ago here, right? But then in Acts 14, they come back to the same place and then share about what God has done. What I would say also to all of us here is open your heart to what God is going to speak today. Times of testimony like this are really powerful ways that God speaks to us. It's not just through a prepared message from a passage of Scripture, right? As we normally do, and which is very fitting. But that's not the only way that God speaks to us, and God challenges us as well, or that God encourages us. Right? There are many ways that God might do this. Let me give a quick overview of the trip, just so that everyone sharing doesn't have to give an overview. But when you share, you could tell kind of what specific part of the trip, maybe what team you served on, and that'll maybe give a little bit of context. But we took a group of, it was about 50 students from the BSM, plus about 10 or 12 staff. Kit and Kim also joined us. And so I went down to San Antonio, which we've done for the last several years. There were several teams that we split the groups up into, and so one team was doing project at the church. So we've stayed at Brook Hill Baptist Church again, which has just been an awesome partnership over the last several years. We've gotten to know their pastor pretty well, their staff pretty well. They love having this group come down. They tell us they look forward to it every year, and I don't think they're just saying that. I think they really, really do. And so it's a really fun. They open up their building and are super gracious to us. And they really say, hey, just treat this as if it were your home. And what I tell our group is treat it better than your home. I've seen how some of you treat your homes. So, and so, yeah, we want to leave it better than we found it. But no, so the church, Brook Hill Baptist Church, so we got to basically do their entire service last Sunday. I preached, and some of our staff and students led worship. And it was just a really, really sweet time to partner with the church. So one group stayed at the church for the week and did projects there. Their facilities guy is 88 years old, and so can't do as many things as he could all the way back when he was 83 when I met him, right? And so, the energy, the literal energy that group brings is amazing for the church. Two other groups did kids camps. So they would go to, one was at a mobile home park, and one was at an apartment complex. And so VBS type things. So they would invite kids, and the kids would come, and they'd play games with them, sing songs with them, read Bible stories, give them snacks, play all sorts of things. One of those was at a mobile home park that actually we've done evangelism at before in years past. That was a really cool situation. The management there really loved having us there. And then the other one was at an apartment complex that had it was Afghan refugees. So refugees from Afghanistan had settled there in the last 2 to 3 years since they had come over from Afghanistan when the U.S. pulled out. So that's largely who that group was ministering to. And we partnered with First Baptist San Antonio in doing that. First Baptist San Antonio already had, they'd been doing ministry there for about 2 years. Some volunteers had been going there basically about once a month and just really trying to build trust. These are very devout Muslim Afghan people, and so the kids are being raised in very devout Muslim households, and so there was just some unique difficulties about that with the kids, and I'll let those who are part of that group, they can share more about that. There was another group that did evangelism, so just went to different parts of the city and looked for people to share the gospel with. Joseph was one of the leaders of that team, along with Eliza. Eliza is not here this morning. She's not able to be with us, but I know Joseph can share more about what that team did and others who were in that group as well. At the beginning of the trip, we talked about, I called it pro tips for mission trips. Basically kind of five things to keep in mind for the trip. And it was be flexible, it was be humble, be joyful, be social, and be fruitful, as in have the fruits of the Spirit. And so those are kind of 5 things that we really we wanted to have define us. But I realized that's actually really good, just kind of, that's good guidelines, yeah, for us on any day, is to have a flexibility to, like, when you can have a plan, and that's great, and we need to have plans. But sometimes things change, right? Like this morning, sometimes the water doesn't come on, on a Sunday morning, right? And we have to adjust. But it really was an awesome time, not without its difficulties. Anytime you go on a trip like this, you're going to encounter opposition, whether it's circumstantial opposition or opposition from people. And we experienced all of the above on this trip. And so I'm looking forward to what we're going to hear this morning. Tell you what, here's what we'll do. How about everyone who's going to share? Why don't you come up here and come stand right here? And I'm gonna call on Joseph Ruiz to be the first one to share, because he loves to go first, and I just want to give him what he wants. So y'all give it up for Joseph Ruiz. Yeah. Okay.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, like Ben said, my name is Joseph. I think I know everyone here. Love all of you guys. You guys are great. But yeah, so this is my, I think, 5th time going on Spring Break mission trip. This is my 2nd time leading it as one of the staff members. But I always love when we go on this trip, because the Lord never fails to amaze me, because there's just so many cool things that happen, lots of great stories that happen as well. But to provide some context as to why I think I enjoyed this trip a lot more than I usually do, was because I was just sick the week before. I was out all week. I couldn't go to the BSM. And so it was cool at first to just kind of stay home, I was just like, yeah, I'll watch movies all day. That sounds awesome. But towards the end of that, I was just really craving human interaction, because I think that's just how God created us. He created us to be very, relational beings, and to just have fellowship with one another. And I was just really feeling that, and I was craving it. And so I got to go on the trip, feeling 100% better. Not 100%, I guess 90% better. I definitely felt better by the time we left San Antonio. But it was just really good in that way, that I got to, spend time with everyone that goes to the BSM, because I love them all very deeply. Yeah, and it was just really impactful to just be surrounded by lots of great friends, and to serve alongside each other, and help further the kingdom in San Antonio, which is a very near and dear place to me in my heart, because that's where I'm from. That's the city that I grew up in. And growing up there, I was never exposed to the gospel, not once. And so to be able to do what I've been doing here at the BSM, to apply that over in San Antonio is just so awesome. It's a huge blessing. And I was fortunate enough to be able to serve on the evangelism team with Eliza. And I love doing evangelism, y'all. It's so awesome. I can do it all the day long. But the problem with me is I don't think I'm a very good shepherd. So after the fact, I would love to share the gospel with somebody. They come to know Jesus. That's great. Let me hand you over to somebody else. That's my ideal situation. But yeah, so that was great for me to just be able to do that, do what I love over there. And for me, it was just a really big change, because I kind of was able to take the lead on that team and just, lead it. And so for me, it just felt like that I couldn't really actually take part in it, because I was just so involved with the planning and the logistics and making sure everyone was good and safe, and just kind of making sure things were flowing. And so, yeah, I think there were times where I definitely felt like a Martha in situations. But needless to say, there were, just quite the bit of hiccups. I would say on Monday was definitely the hardest day for us, because we have this guy, a student, and he's really big. His name is Cole, and he got bit by a dog, right on the hand here, and it was very, deep, and there's lots of blood involved. So that was really stressful. And we got him taken care of. Men came over, took him to a clinic, and he was good to go. But he also got into a car accident that day, a little fender bender. He was good. Everyone was safe, but that was just really crazy coincidence. But then another one of our students, her name is Bailey, she lost a family member that day as well. So that was also really tough for a lot of us. So it just made me feel very down and very sad, and I definitely cried a bit. But the students in that time, they were all amazing because they kept going. So like the next day, Cole and Bailey, they were back the next day to just keep going, to continue on doing the mission. And it was just really cool to be part of this team because everyone was feeling what I was feeling, because there were times where we didn't feel too successful, but our measure of success is very different than what God's measure of success. So we got to do a lot of things together. We got to work together. We got to pray together, and we just left our struggles with the Lord, and it was just all very encouraging. And it was just awesome to just see how faithful these guys were. It's definitely great that I get to be a part of that, and all the other staff as well. But yeah, I talked with a few of them, some of my guys, and there was one guy that I meet with. His name is Toby. He was on the evangelism team, and it wasn't his first pick, but by the end of it, he was very glad that he was on the evangelism team, and he was just so surprised with how easy it can be to have a spiritual conversation with somebody. So that was really cool for him to say that. But also, I just want to shout out Calvin, because on, I think it was Sunday, right, where you did the campus outreach stuff and praying for them. Yeah, so I remember getting back to the church on Sunday, and he comes up to me and he's like, brother, we got to pray on campuses, and I led a group of guys I taught them SALTY, which is an acronym that we use at the BSM. It's just a tool that we have to just kind of be able to have spiritual conversations. And the S is starting conversations. The A is asking questions. The L is listening to their answers. And then the T is share the gospel. And then the Y is a yes or no. So it was really cool because he was very excited and very eager that he got to do that, to share with another group of guys that training, but also to share with them the 3 circles and how to share that. So it was really encouraging. My heart was just so happy to hear him excited about that, because I remember there was a time when you were scared to go out and share your faith, and now you're helping other people do that. So that's really awesome. But yeah, that's pretty much my experience. It was very different for me just leading it. It was overall just a very good time to just kind of see how the Lord is working and what he's doing over in San Antonio. So, yeah.
Morning, y'all. Jacob, number 4, if you don't know me. I had the privilege of being on the Garden Valley Kids team, which was the low-income trailer park housing that had been mentioned before. We had a team of 10 or 11 people. I don't remember exactly. And one of the things that Ben brought up was just so awesome for us, was that the staff there was super excited to have us there. I've been on one spring break mission trip before, and I did the kids team as well. It was at a place called Mirasol, and the staff was also excited for us to be there, and they gave us a trash can so that we could dispose of our trash, and that was great. But the people at Garden Valley were making lunches for the kids. They were giving us speakers and tools and providing us with locations and sending out email blasts that made people more likely to come in. So it was really, really awesome to see how engaged they were with their community and how pumped they were to have us there. And I think that did translate over into the kids' enjoyment of the VBS that we put on. I saw a ton of kids come in with their walls up and not really interested in hearing from us, but much more interested in, let's just play soccer, throw a football around the entire day long. Let's just play sports. And that was fun. I was one of 3 guys on our team, so I was kind of constantly running around and playing games. I was very tired by the end of it. But by the end, a lot of my other teammates were able to have really engaging conversations with some of the kids that came in way more guarded and way more combative than we would have expected. Rambunctious, if you will. 2 years of Spanish I took in high school were super, super helpful over the course of this trip because it was a primarily Hispanic group of people. So we have a person on our team named Victoria, and she is she was able to translate for us the entire time, and that was a huge blessing that we very much needed. But here and there, I was able to dish out some El Baños, comer. It was great. It was great. My allergies did kill me. San Antonio has a penchant for just running me through when it comes to pine allergies and anything else, really. But even whenever it did affect my ability to run around with the kids, the Lord used it. We were able to, whenever I ran out to go get water and some medicine, we were able to talk to a man whose car broke down and pray over him. And just all the times that I had to step back, it was really comforting to see somebody else step in to fill that spot, being able to do what I had to do while I was blowing my nose or just dying in the corner. Overall, please pray for the kids at Garden Valley that we're able to go back to the same place next year. I doubt that the staff would say no because they were just so excited to see us there. But really, I think that the best outcome would be that whenever we go back, the kids aren't there, and they've found better housing, that they're more stable. They have a pretty solid community there, but it's not the best place in the world to raise a family. So just pray for their families, that they're able to find a better place for them to live in. A lot of the kids have really broken families, so prayers for that as well would be super appreciated. Yeah.
All right, I was in the Garden Valley kids team as well with Jake. So starting out before I decided to go to San Antonio, I had a lot of problems going on deciding if I was going to go on this mission trip. I didn't know if it was really a good time for me to go. I had a lot of things in my life just going wrong at that time, but I'm really glad I ended up going. It was an amazing trip. Like Jake said, the staff at the trailer park house was just so amazing. They were giving out lunches. Like, we would have our own lunches, but they made stuff for the kids and they let us have some too, which is so nice and caring. And it was just so amazing to see that they wanted the kids to do better too. They talked about how, like, some of the family lives they were all connected and they just cared so much about the kids and like everyone. And it was just so sweet to see that. We had a lot of time to play games and we did lessons with the kids. So each of us did a lesson a day and in a group. And so I was with Jake and Victoria and we did lessons, and it was really interesting to see that. But the kids loved to play and sing the songs with us. They really got into it and knew all the moves, and they would teach the kids that would show up. We only had 3 kids our first day show up, 2 of them speaking fluent Spanish and 1 that could speak English and Spanish. So it was a little difficult if you don't know any Spanish. But we had Victoria. She was awesome. She translated everything for us. But then it gradually grew each day. So like the next day we had 17 kids. And then the last 2 days we had about 23 and 25 kids show up. So it was really awesome to see it just grow, and like the kids were so happy to be there. We did have some issues with some fightings and some yelling and some bad words, but it was good to see that the kids were still, some of them were getting along, and we could always like talk to them about how we don't use those words and like we want to love each other because God loves us, and like explain all those things to the kids. One of the things that I really liked about going there and meeting those kids, there was another kid there that struggled a lot with being bullied, and he just always felt down and like nobody cared about him. So being able to be there with him and like help relate to him and his family life, and just really be able to talk to him about it was something that really helped me in my life too. But I sat down with him one day because he got hurt and asked him, "Do you want me to pray for you?" And he was like, he thought for it for a second, and then he was like, yeah, I would like you to pray for me. So I prayed for him, and I think that was starting to change a little bit of his mind and how he thought. Because each day he would be like, "Oh, I don't want to participate," and all this stuff. And then he slowly started getting back into it and having fun and like thinking more of God's word. So it was really interesting to see like his mind open up. And there was another boy who really struggled with his family life. His mom left him, and it was just a lot. And I just really connected with these boys, and a lot of the girls, they were all so kind, and just seeing it really broke my heart for their life, and like what they were going through was really sad, but it helped me because I could feel their emotions and be able to talk to them clearly. I also, so for this trip, the prayer that would be really helpful was praying for the kids, and like that they can open their hearts to God more, and just like be able to connect to him and know that God loves them most, and that even though their parents aren't always there or their friends aren't always there, that God loves them more than anything else, and that they can always go to him when they're struggling. So just pray for them to open their minds and their hearts to God, and to find a better place. Yeah, and that's all.
Cool. Unlike everyone else, I was not smart enough to write notes, so we're here. Yeah, if I was with the summit team. That was the one at the apartment with the Afghan refugees, and I gotta say, if you would have told me 15 years ago that I would be with Afghan refugees on my first ever spring break mission trip, I would have called me crazy. And going to the future, if I would have told myself that that would have been my first pick for a mission trip, I would still call me crazy. So it was definitely interesting. This last winter, I actually did a Go Now trip where I was with teenagers, and so I went in with kind of expectations similar to that of probably not going to get to share the gospel because they're so young and that's not what they need. They just need to be loved. But it was just so different, and God just really has a way of making sure that if you think you're going to be comfortable, making you not comfortable. So I got in there, and immediately they were just like, here's all these rules. You can't, like, the girls couldn't start conversations with guys. We have to wear baggy clothing. We had to be like very culturally appropriate to them, because if we weren't, then they weren't just going to give us attention. And it was really sad, actually, just going in and like trying to sing a song. I mean, I understand I'm bad singing, but the group of us try to sing a song about Jesus, and half the kids just ran away, and the other half just closed their ears. And so that was definitely saddening. I only cried 3 of the 5 days that we were there, and that was, yeah, something. It was just looking around and seeing all these kids that don't have the same life that I had growing up. That just like, I was so fortunate to just be surrounded by God all the time. And even if I didn't believe in it, I understood what it meant to be a Christian. And looking at them, they don't. Oh, sorry. They don't have like any idea. They look at us and they think that we're just trying to convert them, that we're just these people that are showing up to do a job, and that's it. Like, that we're just following the rules of our God and they're following the rules of theirs. But it was so much more than that. It really was encouraging to just watch them realize that we were just there to love them. At one point, I just walked up to one, and he was like, he's like, where did y'all come from? Where are you from? I was like, oh, I'm 5.5 hours away. And he was like, why did you come out here? I was like, to be with y'all. He was like, no, you weren't. But they kind of like slowly realized that, like, that we drove all the way out here and that we came just to spend time with them. And they really started to open up, like, towards the end. I even got to share the gospel with someone about my age. I didn't actually ask, but he's probably about 19, 20. And I got his phone number, and he said that he would look into it. I encouraged him to send me stuff back. I was like, if Islam is the way, then I would be more than happy to follow that. But I see no factual proof that it would be. So I encouraged him that I will send him stuff and that he will send me. So I definitely grew a lot in just spiritual warfare. It was crazy. Like they said earlier, our friend father passing, the car I rode in, actually, the battery died, and so we were stranded there for like a good hour and a half. And a lot of other stuff. I mean, it was all in one day. It was all within about 5 hours, like all right there. And it was really encouraging to actually watch Ben just sit there and be a leader throughout all of it. He didn't act like the situation was perfect. He didn't just look at us and be like, "Oh, don't worry, Jesus is already taking care of it." No, he looked at us and said, "The problem is happening, but Jesus is going to walk through us in this valley. He's going to walk us through the valley." And that was really encouraging, not just to know that we don't have to ignore our problems, that they're real, but that God is there with us. And so I definitely got to get a really good taste of like what ministry was like in that regard. Just a whole new deep dive that I've just never experienced. But yeah, I'm so happy to do this again next semester or next year, not semester. We don't do that fall. Yeah, and I will be so glad to come up here and share with it again. And if you got questions, then you can ask any of us later. Yep.
All right, I'm going to try not to yell into the mic too much. My name is Joshua. I served on the evangelism team with Broseph and Eliza. And before I start anything, I just wanted to read 2 Timothy 2:15. Do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who does not need to be ashamed and who correctly handles the word of truth. And I just want to talk about all our teams. They did such an incredible job. Broseph and Eliza were such great leaders. Hearing about what the kids team would do and how a lot of the guys would step up, especially on the summit team, like Jacob and Trenton and Eric and many more, to lead those kids really well. It was just so amazing to see God working all across. And through that spiritual warfare that I mentioned on Monday, all our leaders were so strong, and all the students were too, and they just really put their trust in God. And seeing that in display, I have to thank the Father so much. And like Trenton said, this is like Ben's first time, as director for an SBMT, and he did an incredible job. If I had to share all the stuff he did, it would take up like the entire service. So I'll have to say that for another time. But we went out and helped a starter church for the first 2 days, and they just started about 2 weeks ago and just built their building. And it was just incredible to see the way God funded the entire process. There were so many times where they had no money. A lot of stuff was donated. They didn't know what the building was going to look like, if they'd have a parking lot. And it was just God providing like every single way. It was like kind of like the story of George Mueller, how he relied on God for everything. And that's the same way this pastor did as well. He gave up his cushy job that paid 6 figures to come out here and pastor. And that was just amazing. And I just wanted to talk about like what I saw God do. And I just was amazed at just seeing the power of the gospel in every environment, whether it was neighborhoods, apartments, going to different parks, or just going on the streets of San Antonio, talking with everyone. That was really, really encouraging. And I think God really, whenever I share the gospel on campus, I've always had some limitations with having a fear of man. And on this trip, I had prayed a lot. I prayed a lot about, just that I could be bold in my faith, and God really answered that so well. And even though I got sick during some of the trip, I was able to have enough energy to just do it throughout the day. And I had people pray over me, like Jacob, like Caleb, like Yared, like Broseph. Broseph prayed for me before we went out one day, and it was just answered prayers throughout every single day of that trip. Sorry, my bad. And about cultural insights that I had is like kind of just the same as last year. It's just realizing how much like laborers are needed there in San Antonio. It's right here in our backyard. How we need to always be praying for ministry there, and that we're not the only students going every year. I hope that we continue to go there every year. Beach Reach is great, but I think the UTA BSM is called to San Antonio. And what God did in me during this trip is just I just want to, like, anytime I'm like out and about, I just want to go share the gospel, like any situation. Like literally the next day after spring mission trip, someone was going around the neighborhood selling Spectrum Internet, and I just got to share the gospel with him. He's a Muslim. I got his phone number, and he said he'll meet with you after Ramadan. So, and I asked, can I bring my brother along? And he said, yes, you can. So, just great opportunities in every corner. And man, street evangelism and going door to door is not scary, and God showed me that, and that's just by His grace. It's you just have to be bold and trust in Him. Like the Creator of the universe is compelling you to go share the gospel. Answer His call and go out there and be faithful to Him. And I would just say pray for all the evangelism team. Like as they come back here, pray that God will continue to give them that same boldness everywhere they go. Whether it's at a restaurant to pray over a worker, whether it's that they're walking to their car and they see someone who needs help, whether it's on our campus, especially, we need to continue to be bold and seek mentorship, seek leadership if you have questions, and be in constant prayer. And that's how and also just pray for, I have never really done much homeless ministry before until I went on this mission trip. So just please pray for the homeless everywhere, especially in San Antonio. They're so lost. It's so sad. But being able to speak with them and give them hugs and pray for them, that was just God's grace, and I have to thank him for that. So in closing, I just want to read 1 Peter 4, 10 through 11. Each of you should use whatever gift you have received to serve others as faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. If anyone speaks, they should do so as one who speaks the very words of God. If anyone serves, they should do so with the strength of God. Do so with the strength that God provides, so that in all things God may be praised through Jesus Christ. To him be the glory and the power forever and ever. Amen. All our teams relied on the Lord the entire time, and we just got to see God's fruit. And I just got to thank the Lord for that. So that's all I have to share.
Okay, guys. Hi, I'm Jacob, and I was on the summit team with Trenton and Cassandra and other people who aren't here. It was very tough. I would be lying if it wasn't tough. Like Trenton mentioned, we got shut down when trying to share with them, when trying to teach them, when trying to evangelize them. It was very difficult to see just in a complete rejection of a lot of kids just leaving and a lot of kids just going away. However, I would like to say that our team did keep going even when there was just one kid left. Like even when there's just one kid sitting there and listening. And I think that that's huge, because if we just only go for the masses and we ignore the one who is actually there to listen and grow, then I don't think anyone will hear about Jesus. So I will say that our team, yes, there was so much discouragement. Yes, there was so much troubles. And the one that has been mentioned is that someone passed out and from heat stroke when they're on our team. And it was kind of crazy. But I will say that hearing and seeing the faithfulness of the SBMT, no, the First Baptist San Antonio Church was incredible, because obviously we're there on the mission trip, and always the hardest thing about the mission trip is leaving and not continuing any of the work that you're doing there. But knowing that First Baptist Church San Antonio was there to continue where we left off with the summit team was really incredible. I got the privilege of actually taking a 1 hour break from our team to go with one of the guys, Byron, from the church, and another guy, Danny, from the church, to help with taxes for a local business that was nearby. And we talked with him for an hour. He was also an Afghan refugee. And he said the thing that was the most encouraging to me on the day that was the most discouraging. When we finished helping him with his property taxes and all that, he looked at us and he was like, "No one is nice to me here. You are the only people who are kind to me here. No one else is on my side. Everyone here is trying to lie and cheat to me and stab me in the back." And Byron and Danny, the people who are from the church, clearly had built up this relationship with him and had been consistently working with him and had been kind to him and helping him when no one else would. And that right there, that is the impact that we have on these kids. So Ben mentioned on Tuesday, he was saying that these kids will not remember every word you said, but they will remember how they felt when they were with you and how they felt around Christians and how Christians treated them. And that really was the summation of everything we were doing at the summit team. We can't walk away and be like, 40 kids came to Christ, woohoo! And to everyone else that may look like a failure, but we can leave saying 40 kids felt comfortable around Christians and felt comfortable enough to play with us, to keep up with us, to keep coming back every day. And that is the success. That is the success of showing up and being faithful and being obedient and letting God do the rest of the work. Because we can't change everyone's hearts, but we can just let God do that and trust that he's going to do that. So for me, For me, the thing God really showed me is that God is faithful and he is good, and we can rely on him. Even when everything may seem dire, even when things are going wrong, we can always rely on him. The people on the evangelism team who suffered like terribly always came back smiling, always came back working. They were real troopers, and they didn't do that in their own strength. They did that in God's strength. So every time that Eric and Trenton and everyone on our team kept up with the guys, and they kept running around with these kids and spending a good 6 hours playing soccer every day. That was not in their strength. That was in God's strength. So I guess I'll end with shouting out some of the people from our team because you see them. Eric was a real leader when we were there. He stopped fights. These kids don't have any like male role models in their life, and it's really interesting to see. So Eric like would always stop fights. These kids were very aggressive. They were always looking to fight, always looking to actually throw hands, and Eric would always separate them and do that. Trenton didn't say it, but Trenton has been taking a class on Islam and everything surrounding that for the last semester. So clearly God had been calling him towards this and had clearly prepared him and given him a heart to serve with these kids. So that was just incredible to see. Jenna's not here, but Jenna was a real leader during that. Even when things were tough, even when no one was listening, Jenna was a just very strong leader who always had an approach to things. So, the last thing I want to say, sorry. These kids were blown away by the fact that our team was close with each other, that we were friends with each other. Me and Jenna were standing next together at one point, and a little girl goes, "Is that your wife?" And I'm like, no, we're not married actually, but this is my sister. And I'm like, what? How is that your sister? And being able to share and being like, hey, through Jesus Christ, everyone who believes in Christ is our brothers and sisters. Mind-blowing for these kids because there's such a strong sense of family, but like they only see it as blood. So being able to share that was really encouraging. But anyway, that's all I have. God is good. God is great. And even when we fail and fall on our face, he's going to pick us back up and get us back into the field. So thank you for listening.
For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Calvin with a K. But for everyone that does, I'm just Calvin. But this was my first ever spring break mission trip, or mission trip in general. But it was just really encouraging to go on and really just help me as a new believer to really lay a fundamental of how I should be living and just grow. But I was given the privilege to be a member of the manual labor team, and that basically just looked like us going around in Brook Hill doing maintenance and just labor. But it was really interesting because I was given the opportunity to lead everyone instead of just following like Broseph, like a sheep this time. But I was given just all the privilege from Matthew to really just lead just groups of people to just target tasks and get things complete. So it was really good to really get some insight on being a leader. But also, one big highlight for me this trip was Sunday when we were able to just go onto campuses across San Antonio and just prayer walk. We prayer walked for 3 hours, I believe, and it was very discouraging in a sense of just, I thought it was a lot of repetition and a lot of just repeating myself over like prayers. But Matthew told me that it's really not the way that you should be looking at it, but it's more persistency. And that persistency is just what leads God to just open up and really be faithful and promise on us. But yeah, but it was really nice. This is my first mission trip again, so it was really hard for me to really absorb everything. But actually, before coming to the mission trip, it was very discouraging and I've struggled a lot with just deciding if I wanted to go or not. And I had many doubts, just making excuses on why I shouldn't go, and just ignoring what God was calling me to do. But despite all the things that I just did and all the excuses I've made, I ended up going, and I don't regret any minute of me going. And it was just amazing to watch just God move through all of the BSM, despite the enemy and just all the discouragement that we went through, all the hardships, and just how God stayed loyal. Yeah.
Hi, my name's Cassandra. This is not my first mission trip. Every other mission trip I've done is more like a labor base. Like when Hurricane Harvey hit, I got to go to Rockport and help out families there, just like clean up. But yeah, so I'm gonna open up with the scripture. It's from 1 Timothy 4:12. I'm surprised nobody has taken it yet. Let no one despise you for your youth, but set the believers an example in speech, in conduct, in love, and in faith, and in purity. So I have some notes here, but we're kind of just gonna go over it. Spring break mission trip was a journey or a memory for sure. I got to be on the summit team with Jacob, Joseph, and Trenton. I cried, I laughed, I cried, I laughed. I got to see a live version of VeggieTales, which was really cool. I got to eat Texas Roadhouse for the first time, which was really good. So as they were saying earlier, we got to do a lesson, like there was a group of us each day that would do each thing. So I was with Millie's brother, Ruben, and I was supposed to be with Sneha, be praying for her if y'all can, or she's okay, but I was doing the craft one day, and I think it was Monday or Tuesday, and I was kind of nervous because children's ministry was not my first pick. It was homeless ministry, but we didn't have that. And I was doing it, and a mother of the Muslim community had sent her older daughter out, about 14 or 15. I don't know what she was saying in her language, but she was saying pretty much that what we're doing is trying to convert them, what we believe is wrong, what they believe is right, pretty much. And so it was really discouraging just because I froze when she was doing that, because kids started like because we were doing the bracelets with the red, the green, like gospel bracelets. It was really discouraging because I saw them putting them back. And this was a first time thing for me, so I kind of just froze. I didn't know what to do. But I kind of just, my brain was like, okay, we got to keep going type of thing. Afterwards, I think it was that day, I was talking to some of the people on my mission trip, and I just like started crying because this is not something I've never experienced spiritual warfare like this before. I've never been on a mission trip with other like cultures that I know. So it was just really discouraging, forgive me, but just thinking about how these kids could go to hell. And it's obviously we did what God has called us to do, but it was really discouraging and really really hard. But the next day I got to do the lesson and I was better at it, so that was great. I learned that God will call you to very uncomfortable places. Even if you say no, he's going to do it anyways because he does what he wants. And sometimes God only calls us to plant that seed, which is just as important as watching it bloom. I also got to share the gospel with a student with the help of Jacob Joseph, because he's better at simplifying things. I am not. I also got to pray for my Texas Roadhouse waitress, a Dollar General employee, and I also got to pray with a student that goes to Palo Alto Community College at the church. And then yesterday I went out to eat with a friend, and we went to Cheddar's, and I got to pray for the waitress there, or the waiter there. So yeah, I kind of like learned how to be more like bold. I'm not a very bold person. That's just not who I am. But in God, we can always be bold and trust in Him and trust in His love and faithfulness that He will be there when we need Him for sure. And so yeah, I think that's it. Yeah, oh, one more thing. Trenton Sizemore told me when I was just bawling my eyes out with Yared and Trenton, he said, if you don't cry once while you're doing children's ministry, then you're not doing it right. So it kind of stuck with me for sure. It was definitely something I'd never experienced before, but I would love to do it again. So yeah.
Hello, I'm Hannah. I was also on a kids team, the Garden Valley team in the mobile home neighborhood with Jake and Haley and a bunch of students that don't go to this church. But it was really cool. We were so blessed just to be serving in that neighborhood. And I was so blessed to have like a team of just awesome students who were just really engaging with the kids and investing in their lives and just sharing the gospel with them and kind of running around with them. Yeah, it was really cool just to see like God move while we were there. Like Haley and Jake shared, like we went from 3 kids the first day to like 20 kids the next, like throughout the rest of the week. And just like God provided in like both of those situations. Like when we had 3 kids, we really got to just like engage with them on a different level. And we talked to them about Jesus and kind of see like what their understanding of who he was, and asked them like, why do you think Jesus needed to die for us? And just really, a lot of the kids had like a church background and had some kind of knowledge of Jesus and who he was. But it was really cool just to kind of like build on that. And then when we had 20, we had just like a lot of games and just really good lessons, just sharing about the gospel. And we were so blessed by the community center while we were there. They were providing like lunches and food and snacks for the kids. And we got to talk with them as well. I had a good conversation with one of the ladies who was there. A lot of them had like a Catholic background. And so we got to share like, why are we spending our week doing this in San Antonio with these kids in this neighborhood? And just why it was so important to us to share Jesus and to share the gospel and to invest in those kids who we didn't know and had no connection really to that neighborhood at all beforehand. So that was just really cool to share that. And it was just really cool. Just the kids, like they were so interested. One of my students, he had this really good conversation with one of the boys. They were sitting down and we had just shared the lesson on like the gospel and we made these gospel bracelets. And he was asking, like the kid was asking a bunch of questions about God and like who he was and like us and like the Bible. And so they were just having this really good conversation. And it was time for the snack, and a lot of the kids' friends, they went to go get their food and they came back and they came up to him and they're like, oh, like there's snacks, like go get your snack, like what are you doing? And he was like, no, like I'll get it later, which is so cool. He's like 9 and like he was like so engaged in this conversation about God that he was like, well, I don't need food right now, like I don't need a snack, I'll do that later. So that was just like really cool to see that. And it was really cool. Jake and Timbrel, my co-leader, they had really bad allergies. Jake shared a little bit, but they were troopers, honestly. Like God provided in that as well. Like Timbrel was like wheezing every time we went home. Like, cause she has like a mild form of asthma. But even through the allergies, like God gave like strength and just endurance through that, and like we were able to still serve and do our ministry, and he just really provided in that way as well. But yeah, one thing or a couple of things that y'all can be praying for is before we left, we got to give like all the kids those Gideon Bibles, just the New Testament and like Psalms. And so we got to give them all Bibles, and they were all like really excited. Like we told them like, oh, we have a gift for you, and we gave them Bibles, and they were like, oh, this is so awesome, and they were like grabbing some for their friends. So just be praying that like they would read those and really like just continue to build on that knowledge that they have of who God is and who Jesus is and how we can know him and have a relationship with him. And then, like Jake said, just really like we would be able to like go back and do ministry there again because the kids were awesome, and the community center was great, and it was really cool just to also be able to share like the gospel with them and just share with them about who Jesus is and like why we want to serve him and to do those things. So be praying for them that they would come to know the Lord as well. But yeah, so thank you.
So I am not a college kid, but I did go on this trip. Kim, Shauna, and I were the hospitality team, not the cook team. We were the hospitality team. And what was really cool about it was, while we didn't get to go in the field and do ministry with the college students, which would have been awesome, we didn't get to do that. But what we did was, obviously, we kept them fed, which was fantastic. But what I didn't see was, I didn't see these college kids come out of the field, and I didn't see any negativity at all. If it was happening, I didn't see it. Even on Dark Monday, when we had the dog bite, the car wreck, the battery died, a person died, and all the heat stroke, all these other things that happened, there was no grumbling going on. I didn't see any. Shauna, did you see any? I didn't see any. And so I think that's really a testament to how God is using the BSM at UTA, the obedience of the leadership there, first with Gary for a long time and now with Ben. God is using UTA in an amazing, amazing way, the BSM there. And so on this mission trip, to see these group of people that could very easily have spun off into nothingness and just have been a terrible time, it was great. It was great. And I hope, will y'all let me come back? Can I come back? We'll see. I'm not going to put them on the spot now because they're like, nah. But anyway, one of the things that was interesting, though, was right people, right place, right? I mean, just how God lines stuff up. So with the dead battery, I have an inordinate amount of experience with dead batteries. So when the battery died, I jumped in and helped fix the situation. But it's just weird how just God puts the right people in the right places. So I'll just say that these college students just did an amazing job. And they get that even though they may not have gotten an immediate response from what they did, they know seeds were planted. And they're fine with that. And it was just a phenomenal time, fantastic time. And San Antonio is better for it. And these kids are better for it too. College students are better for it. So hopefully they come back and they take it with them, and UTA becomes a better place. Their communities become a better place. I think we have one more. Do we have one video of Jenna? Okay, so now we got Jenna is going to give her testimony.
Hey guys, just wanted to share a little bit about what I got to do this spring break in San Antonio. I was on the kids team with the Afghani refugees, and so I got to work with kids from a different culture. It was really awesome. Some of them spoke English, especially the older ones in school, but some of them didn't even speak English. So there were a lot of cultural language barriers that we had to really learn a lot about before we were able to share the gospel and reach these kids. And luckily we were partnering with a ministry that has already been there and has been loving these kids well, and they were really helpful in getting us the information we needed so that we could hopefully just share the gospel with these kids in the best way that they can receive it. That included like dressing differently, separating boys and girls, just a lot of things that we didn't expect. And so we had to be flexible and adapt to that. I'm really proud of my team for doing that. Just being really flexible and adapting. And so it was really cool. I would say this year, more than any other year I've been to San Antonio, I got to just connect with the kids more on like a deeper level. So that was really cool. These kids have been in the country for about 2 years now. A lot of them just were thrown into school without knowing English, and they've had a hard time since being here. So getting to just go and play with them and love them and share Jesus with them was really cool. And I really enjoyed it. And it was hard, but it was really, really good. And yeah, please be praying for these kids. Just pray for this apartment complex. You can also pray for Lisa. She's the one that leads the ministry there currently, and she's going to continue to do so. She does it so faithfully. So pray for Lisa, and you can pray for these kids. So thanks so much for prayers, and yeah, it was a hard trip, but a great one. So praise God.